Okay.
Hey guys, welcome to Recombu. I'm Basil with the Xperia Z Ultra to my left and the Xperia Z on my right. The Xperia Z is the seminal Sony phone with this rectangular design. It looks kind of like a Bravia TV. It's a pretty beautiful bit of kit. 7.9mm thin, IP57 certified, waterproof, full HD display. It was many firsts, but the Sony Xperia Z Ultra is also a lot of firsts. The first full HD phone out there that's waterproof, for example. It also is the largest full HD phone out there. It's also really thin, the thinnest full HD phone, measuring just 6.5mm thick. But how do they compare against one another? Well, kicking off with the design, and you can see they both pack a similar design language. They are different thicknesses. Surprisingly, the bigger phone is actually slightly slimmer, 1.4mm to be precise. Taking a look at the user interfaces, you can see Android on both of these phones. Android 4.2 on the Xperia Z Ultra, Android 4.1 on the Sony Xperia Z. There are a few UI tweaks we're going to come to in a sec, but at first, just focus on the screens. Sony's Mobile Bravia Engine 2 technology powers along the Sony Xperia Z. Sony's brand new Tri-Luminous technology is behind what's in the Sony Xperia Z Ultra. Tri-Luminous definitely triumphs in this instance. The viewing angles are much better, color representation is more accurate, it doesn't look quite as oversaturated in areas and pastely in others. It's really impressive and naturally responsive to the touch with that incredibly fast quad-core processor clocked at a whopping 2.2 GHz. As far as the waterproofing goes, the Sony Xperia Z is IP57 certified, meaning water and dust resistant, whereas the Sony Xperia Z Ultra is waterproof and dust resistant, so it can handle getting wet that little bit more. All the ports are underneath flaps on both devices, except for with the Xperia Z Ultra, the port, the 3.5mm headphone jack namely, is exposed, meaning you can listen to music without having to unflap a flap. That said, with a device this big, chances are you're going to want to use a Bluetooth headset, and we wouldn't blame you. Moving inside the phone, and as we said, there's Android 4.2 on board. Mainly the same UI, it looks very similar. Long press to access your home screens, and you can swap out your theme with ease. What you can do on the Android 4.2 that you can't on the Android 4.1, however, is edit your apps drawer in this really neat stylized way. There's also a nice way of accessing small applications. Rather than this bar at the bottom, you can actually access more small applications in a more palatable format. If we jump into settings, we can see most of the settings are virtually identical. So all in all, it really is those two that are the key differences. For the screen size of the Sony Xperia Z Ultra, you do have an additional keyboard option, which you can see does exactly what you did on the Samsung Galaxy Note 2 and create a keyboard leaning to one side. This makes it easier for one-handed typing, and the keyboard out of the box does also support gesture inputs like swipe or swift key. Internals are very different. You've got a Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor clocked at 1.5 GHz on the Sony Xperia Z. This was the fastest processor of its day earlier this year, but now it's been superseded twice over. First there was a Qualcomm 600, now it's the 800, and that's what's in the Xperia Z Ultra. Clocked at an incredible 2.2 GHz, it's also the first mainstream phone to break the 2 GHz barrier with quad-core internals. Gaming on this thing is way better than any other device out there, and even the UI on the Sony Xperia Z stutters every now and then with certain widgets being blown up, whereas on the Sony Xperia Z Ultra there is absolutely none to speak of. Everything is silky smooth and looks incredible. As far as internal memory goes, both devices pack 16GB, micro SD expandable up to 64 additional gigabytes. The camera on the Sony Xperia Z is a 13 megapixel module with a flash. On the Xperia Z Ultra, sadly there is no flash and it's an 8 megapixel module. However, it does actually produce better images in decent lighting. Weird you might think, but that's because the Xperia Z processes images to death and zaps out quite a lot of that all-important detail. Either way, the Xperia Z will still be a better nighttime performer given that flash. When it comes to battery, the Sony Xperia Z Ultra packs a 3000 mAh battery in contrast to the 2300 odd mAh battery in the Xperia Z. With its bigger screen though, power consumption is looking very comparable. Both devices pack Sony's power stamina mode. As you can see, this feature will actually switch off Applications when the screen is off. Great for people who are moderate to light users, but if you're a moderate to heavy user like us, it doesn't make all that much difference, as when the screen's on, there is no power saving to be had. Rounding off our impressions of both these devices, the Sony Xperia Z may be inferior in the specs department, but given the fact it's got 5-inch screen and portable form factor, it's definitely going to appeal to most. Any technology geeks out there who just want the latest and greatest, there is no denying the Xperia Z Ultra absolutely wipes the floor with pretty much everything out there on the tech front. Unfortunately, you won't be able to get your hands on it until September, so don't hold your breath. This has been a prototype unit, so if you've got any questions about it, please fire them our way in the comments section below and we'll test anything you want us to test out. In the meantime, I've been Basil, this has been the Xperia Z Ultra and the Xperia Z. If you've enjoyed our video comparison, click like, and if you like our channel, just click subscribe.